Hey guys, it's me, Erick, and welcome back to another YouTube video. And today I'm going to try something a little different today. I went on the interweb and found CreepyPasta, and I found a pretty interesting story to tell in the darkness. So guys, be sure to get your popcorn, soda, drinks, lay back, sit down, and turn off the lights. Within the Darkness, submitted by LupusCreepus. It started after moving into my new house. Yeah, it's pretty chill. Believe me, I know. But it's what happened. I never experienced nothing supernatural before, and though interested, I never really expected anything to happen to me. I was able to rent a house for pretty cheap. I didn't think anything of it because it was an old and not in the best of the neighborhoods, so I guessed I just got a good deal. After moving everything in, things were fine for a while. I don't remember exactly when it started because it seemed so minor at the time. I'll leave the lights on in the kitchen or in the bathroom to come back to find them off. Honestly, I thought I was just forgetting that I turned them off already when I came back. After a while, I began to wonder and started leaving a couple lights on purpose. Sometimes nothing will happen. Sometimes I'll come back to find the lights turned off. By now, I figured out that something was off. I wasn't really scared, but just confused. I thought maybe something was wrong with the electronics. I started leaving lights on a bit more often because I thought I might be able to get some sign of way why they were randomly shut off. That's when it started to take another turn. The first real time I remember something crazy happening was when I left the kitchen and living room lights on while I was asleep. I woke up to a deep, rumbling growl coming from the kitchen. Now, from the bedroom, you can see down the hall to the living room, and that room is connected to the kitchen. I remember waking up and thinking that there was an animal or something in my house. I looked down the hallway towards the living room to see the light darkened. Somebody has flickered off the lights from the kitchen. Another low growl came, this time from the living room, and I nearly screamed as I saw something bolt across the length of the hall opening, and then the living room lights went out. I couldn't tell exactly what it was though. It seems like a dark shadow or something. It didn't really matter. I was scared shitless. I bolted from my bed, then threw on the bedroom lights, expecting something to be in this room and getting ready to come after me. Nothing. There wasn't nothing in the room. I let out a low breath, and then I slowly moved down the hall into the living room. Once I got to the end, I practically ran to throw on the light switch there. Again, nothing. Kitchen next, and once again, nothing. I was starting to think that I dreamed all of it before, when I turned off the kitchen lights and stopped. Now, I was a grown man, but here, I was terrified to turn off that light switch. And I will admit it, I slept with all the lights on that night. That was a mistake. When I woke up the next morning, all the lights were off once again. I went to push myself out of bed, and once my body felt sore. I pulled the sheets off to see long, red marks coming down along my legs and arms. It looked like something scratched me in the night. That terrified the hell out of me, but not nearly so much as what I saw around the house. Every light I left on was smashed. Every light bulb that was on last night was broken. Every lamp knocked over and smashed in. My breath caught in my throat as I looked around. Something was fucked up as hell here. And something tried to, do something to me. I called in for work that day and went immediately to replace all the lights. I didn't know what to do then. I thought about leaving, and I know this sounds stupid, but this was my home. It was my first time away from my family, and this was my home. I couldn't give it up, so I stayed, even as it got worse. Even though I was beginning to become terrified of the dark, I couldn't really sleep with the lights on me at night in the bedroom. I'll leave other lights on though, like in the hall or in the living room, giving myself enough to see pretty well in my darker room. And almost every night, I'll wake up in the middle of the night to hear something growling and prowling around in the living room. And then the lights were shut off. I didn't want to go look. I was terrified at the thoughts of being in the same room with whatever was in there. So I curled up in bed and prayed it never come in. One night, after this went on for a while, I had it. I bought a gun and turned on every light in the house. Then I sat down in the middle of the living room with my gun in my lap and a baseball bat sitting right next to me. I waited. There was nothing at first for a long time. At around 2 in the morning, I began to hear it. Oddly, it was behind me. I turned and peeked towards the hall to my bedroom and could hear the familiar growl. I swallowed and held my gun in one hand and the bat in the other, and slowly began to step around to get a better view of the bedroom from the living room. As I began a view of my bed, I hear a loud thump, followed by an inhuman roar. I, beginning the brave man I was, jumped back and away from the hallway. I wanted to end this all, but Dear God, I didn't want to deal with that thing. I could hear tearing and smashing, and I don't know how I caught it. But I did manage to hear an audible click. And then nothing. Slowly, I went back to peek down the hall, and the light was off once again. A deep breath, Ventor forward, my weapons ready. When I came to my bedroom, I flickered on the light. I gasped. My bed was wrenched, torn completely apart. It was like some animal had jumped into it and just ripped it to shreds. I stepped forward to look at what was left of my bed and just stood in shock for who knows when. It wasn't until I heard the sound of a familiar growl that I turned around. Standing near my door, right at the light switch, was when I finally saw it. It was a man, a white and rotting man with a mangled body that looked like he had been a dog's chew toy, staring at me. I was too in shock to even raise my weapons. He stared at me for just a moment and then flickered off the lights. I screamed. I'm not even ashamed to admit it. I screamed and bolted. I didn't care of what was there. That man had been standing. I ran right past where I had seen him, swinging my bat like a madman. I nearly put a hole in the hallway as I ran through into the safe of the light of the hall. I turned to look back then, just in time to see him once again near the hallway light switch. He turned that one off too. By then, I didn't want to fight. I wanted to be safe. I burst past the living room into the brightness of my kitchen. I hear the sound of a growling and scratching nearly all around me. Then I knew he was coming back. I looked back to once again to see the mangled and rotting corpse of a man turn another light with a broken finger and plunge me into a terrifying darkness. I broke for the living room. That was going to be my final stand. I'll have to fight here. I drew close to the standing lamp that was my last line of defense. I hated the dark, so I stayed right here. Next to the comforting standing lamp, I waited for it to turn off, but it never did. I looked around, and quiet. Nothing but quiet. I turned, then to look at the saving grace of a lamp that refused to yell. I stared to find myself laughing. A crazy but alive laugh, and I thought I finally would be okay. I stepped closer, and I swear I almost hugged that lamp until I saw it. I heard the growl first, coming from not behind me, but in front. From the lamp, my eyes whitened, and I stared as the light from the lamp intensified. I stumped back, and I don't know what happened, but I think I tripped on something. I just know I found myself flat on my back, staring up into a bright, intense light. It wasn't comforting any longer, just hot and heavy and bright. I thought it was going to burn me away, and then it came. I didn't have the words to describe the pure from the lamp light. It was hideous, twisted, and filled with rage. I don't know when I'll forget those eyes though. Bright, hot, and white. Two glowing circles of pure melting. It hated me. It hated everything about me. And not just me. It hated all of us. Every human being. But it was stuck here. And it will lash out what it could. Me. I don't know how I knew this, but I just did. I longed for me, and I prepared myself for the painful death. Click. The lights went out. Once again came darkness. Sweet, quiet, relaxing darkness. I stayed on the ground for a long moment, letting my eyes adjust as I kept gazing on where my standing lamp was. I stayed on the ground for a long moment, letting my eyes adjust as I kept my gaze fixated on where my standing lamp was. As seconds passed, I could start to make him out. That mangled man standing by the lamp once turned hand upon the switch as he looked down at me. I understood then. I understood what it all meant. Everything that happened, the man put his hand away from it and pointed his mangled finger towards it before, very clearly shaking his head from side to side. All I could find myself doing was nodding. He wasn't the one trying to harm me. All this time, all those intentions, he was trying to protect me. That creature only came in the light. And this mangling man had been trying to keep me safe. He didn't want someone else to repeat his mistakes. I moved out the very next day and never looked back. Whatever it was confined to that house. And so far, nothing come at me from another light source. However, that thing will always stick with me in my mind. Every night in my new apartment, I made a habit of wandering around the house, making sure every light is off, every curtain is closed, and make sure to plug myself in quiet, comforting in quiet pitch darkness.